Ger Toshav. The Ger Toshav, according to the Torah, is a Gentile who is a resident alien, that is, one who lived in the ancient kingdoms of Israel under certain protections of the system, and considered a righteous Gentile. A Ger Toshav, or settler convert, is also called a Ger Hasha'ar, or proselyte of the gate, as we see in Exodus 20 verse 10. But the seventh day is a Sabbath to the Lord your God. You shall perform no labor, neither you, your son, your daughter, your manservant, your maidservant, your beast, nor your stranger who is in your cities. A Ger Toshav was a resident alien given permission to live in the land controlled by Jews if he or she did not worship other gods, engage in idolatry of any kind, or blaspheme God. The Ger Toshav agreed in the presence of 3 scholars to follow these Jewish principles. In addition, a Ger Toshav had to observe the Noahide laws. The Ger Toshav did not have to perform work on the Sabbath, but was not required to join in worship or perform specifically Jewish religious commandments. Maimonides called them righteous Gentiles. They were clearly not full converts to Judaism. There are 2 kinds of Ger Toshavim. A formal one is a Gentile who has made certain legal statements in a Jewish rabbinical court, and there are 3 opinions as to what those statements promise. The first one is simply to abstain from idolatrous practices, and this includes: do not entertain the thought that there exists a deity except Hashem, do not make any graven image, do not make idols for use by others, do not make any forbidden statues, do not bow to any idol, do not worship idols in any of their customary manners of worship, do not cause your children to pass through the fire in the worship of Molech, do not practice sorcery, do not practice fortune-telling, and do not turn to idolatry. The second opinion is to uphold the 7 Noahide laws. This includes prohibition of idolatry, prohibition of blasphemy, prohibition of theft, prohibition of murder, prohibition of sexual misconduct, prohibition of eating live meat, and the prohibition of failing to establish courts of justice. The third opinion is that these people were to uphold all the 613 mitzvot, except for the prohibition against eating kosher animals that died by means other than ritual slaughter. The Gemara cites an argument between Rabbi Meir and Rabbi Yehuda in order to demonstrate the source for Rabbi Avahu's principle. Rabbi Meir says that any type of benefit may be derived from a nefilah, that is, it may even be sold in exchange for money, as well as given to a Ger Toshav, who does not worship idols, or to a Nachri, who does not worship idols. The verse that permits one to derive benefit from a nefilah is unnecessary, because we would have known without a verse that one may derive benefit from nefilah, since no verse forbids it. The Gemara explains that according to Rabbi Avahu, the verse teaches that one is permitted to have benefit only from nefilah, but not from any other item which is forbidden to eat. The definition used by all authorities is the second one. In all cases, the statement is a formal sign that the Gentile is on a righteous path, and as such, they must by law receive certain legal protections and certain charity and financial aid from the community. The second kind of Ger Toshavim is an informal one, namely someone who has not sworn anything to abate dim. In this case, they are not formally entitled to financial aid by law, but the attitude of a religious Jew to someone who has foregone idolatry is supposed to be more welcoming from the perspective of Jewish law than to someone who has not. Furthermore, the restrictions that pertain to an idolater in terms of business and doing things that might be aiding idol worship are foregone. In Ramban's Hilchot Ishri Biyah, the following question is asked: what is meant by a Ger Toshav, a resident alien? A Ger Toshav is a Gentile who makes a commitment not to worship false deities and to observe the other 6 universal laws commanded to Noah's descendants. He does not circumcise himself nor immerse. We accept this commitment, and he is considered one of the pious Gentiles. Why is he called a resident? because he is permitted to dwell among us in the land of Israel. In Rambam's Hilchot Melachim, we learn, Moses was commanded by the Almighty to compel all the inhabitants of the world to accept the laws given Noah's descendants. If one does not accept these laws, he should be executed. A person who formally accepts these laws is called a resident alien, a Ger Toshav. This applies in any place. This acceptance must be made in the presence of 3 Torah scholars. We also learn from Rambam's Hilchot Melachim that anyone who accepts upon himself the fulfillment of these 7 mitzvot and is precise in their observance is considered one of the pious among the Gentiles. They will merit a share in the world to come. This applies only when one accepts these mitzvot and fulfills them because the Holy One, blessed be He, commanded them in the Torah and informed us through Moses our teacher. Previously, Noah's descendants were commanded to fulfill these mitzvot. However, if a person fulfills these mitzvot out of intellectual conviction, they are not considered a Ger Toshav, resident alien, nor of the pious among the Gentiles. They are simply considered wise. In Rambam's Hilchot Isuri Biyah, we learn that we accept resident aliens only during the era when the Jubilee year is observed. In the present era, even if a Gentile makes a commitment to observe the entire Torah, with the exception of one minor point, he is not accepted. In Rambam's Hilchot Avodot Kochavim, we learn that the laws concerning the sale of property and support of the poor, etc., mentioned in this chapter apply only when the Jews are exiled among the nations or when they are attacking the Jews. But when we are attacking them, it is forbidden to have them in our midst. Concerning temporary residence or moving from one rented house to another, we may not allow a Gentile into our land unless he has accepted upon himself the 7 commandments of the sons of Noah. For it is written, "They shall not dwell in your land, even for a single hour." If a Gentile accepted upon himself the 7 commandments, then he is classed as a settling stranger. Settling strangers are accepted only at a time when the Jubilee is observed, but a righteous stranger, i.e. a convert, is accepted at all times.
This has been a punktorah production. Thank you for watching.